Alright guys, so I just wanted to take a couple of minutes to just set some context about this festival and also about the time that we find ourselves in and why I believe festivals like this and topics like what we're going to discuss is important, right? Firstly, you made it. You've come from a city, you've taken a bus and you've called Iqbal the pink auto guy and you managed to make it to Jungli. So just take that in, that you actually taken quite a big journey and taken out some time to be here, and we really, really appreciate that. The second thing I want to say is that this land has always been a nomad village in a sense. I just want to tell you a little bit about where you are, especially for the new starters, just bring you back to some context. In 1955, my great-grandfather Lal Bhai Patel bought 5,000 freedom fighters here to build this land and convert it into a factory. They came from all over India. They left their families behind and they made a new home over here. If that's not nomad life, I don't know what is, right? So this place has always had that energy. It's also why Dandeli is known as mini India and speaks multiple languages because of this really rich history. And right here in this space that you're in, which is called Soch, this has always been an artist residency. As you know, Jungli is part digital nomad village, part artist residency. And so Hiren Mama, that lived in this house, loved the arts and hosted artists like Pankaj Udas, Bhimsen Joshi, Girish Karnad, the Gurtu sisters, and even the ex-Prime Minister of India, Chandrasekhar, hid over here during the 1970s emergency, which is pretty incredible. So what we're doing at Jungli is not starting something new, but just continuing an energy that's always been here. So I want to take a second to just say a little thank you to our ancestors, from Lal Bhai Patel to the 5 uncles and aunties that my dad has, that have made this moment and this space possible, because we would be nowhere over here without them. We've actually put up a family tree on the left. Thanks a lot for your help, Siddharth, with that. So when you're going up the stairs on the left-hand side now, you'll see a family tree. You can't see it from here, sorry, but you'll see it when you're walking out of the main door. The second group I want to thank is this community. You guys have been so patient with power outages, internet outages, unprecedented situations happening at Jungli that normally is very smooth sailing over here, and you'll have really leaned in to help, so a massive, massive thank you to you all. And third is the team. The Jungli team has worked 2 Sundays in a row to activate some of the villas that you're living in and to set up spaces and things that we've just never been pressure tested with before. So can we give a massive round of applause? We haven't hosted 40 people on this land since 2001, since the factory closed. So let that sink in for a sec. We're reviving history over here, which is really special.
Using up a lot of water.
Using up a lot of water. Not as much water as the factory used to use. And yes, we're doing our best. We know, things may not be perfect, so tell us if we can help you further. And feel free to lean in if you see a problem and ask us how you can help. And we'd absolutely invite that. Bit of housekeeping for the new starters. Rohit's been really kind to share his loo, so the loo is over here. There's also a staff toilet at the back, which is an Indian staff loo, so if you don't mind that as well, we can share between that. And the jungle also needs a lot of water, so there's that. Smoking area at the back, or do yoga and you live longer. And cafe is also live over here, so you'll see menus around and KOT slips. And you can just fill it in and give it to the kitchen team, and you can have a drink while you enjoy the talks, which is really cool. And I hope everyone's comfy with the seating arrangement. If you do need more chairs or something, just let us know, we'll get things arranged. With the talks, even though we're 20 minutes late, we're going to do our best to stick to the 20-minute time and have some timekeeping going today. Vishesh, sorry, I know we're doing a lot of jobs. Could you download or set up a timer on your phone? Not on the laptop, just on your phone. And just when the speakers come on, we can just have that going so that they can help have a reference of time. A little bit about how this whole festival happened. Like, it's a pretty crazy story about how this all came together. As I traveled Australia and then traveled India, I noticed that in India there were so many intellectual conversations happening, much more so than Australia, which was just about like, chuck me a fucking beer, mate. It was just like, let's live in the moment, let's have a beer and let's just talk shit. Whereas in India there was a lot of intellectual conversations happening. But in India I noticed a big problem. Half the community was unavailable. Women didn't feel safe traveling. And it really reduced the diversity in the room and the way that, India couldn't be the full vibe that it has the potential to be. And that really motivated us when we were launching Jungli. Some other things I noticed is that there was no space that understood monthly rates. No space that understood that Wi-Fi is a necessity, not a nice to have. Workspaces in a room are also just a necessity for people like us, artists and nomads on the move. So the day I launched Jungli, I was a bit nervous about how Mayur might react. If you've not heard of Mayur, he's the pioneer of the digital nomad scene in India. He's the founder of Nomad Gaon, the first space in India for this group. And he arrives tomorrow morning, very humbly by bus, like an absolute legend. He's been trekking it from Dharamshala. So Mayur called me and I was like, oh fuck, how's this gonna go? I hope he's okay with this and I hope he sees us as friends. And Mayur said, finally, it's not just me building. And I was like, oh wow. He's like, anything you need, let me know. Any learnings that I've had, I'll share with you. And I was like, okay, this is the vibe of the builder scene over here. That's amazing. And that just meant that when Nomad Sikkim launched, I called them and I said the same script. And because of that, we've had a very collaborative energy in this room. There was one day when Geetika and I were partying at Echoes of Earth Music Festival in Bangalore. We were sitting down and I keep getting my Mayurs and my Mayanks mixed up. Mayank, who was just here, who just left the room, founder of Matt Packer's Hostel, was sitting with us and he heard Geetika and me rant about all of the problems we have facing Jungli. We don't know how to do this, we don't know how to do that, everything's a Google Sheet. He calmly listened to us and he just told us how to set up some systems that are truly helping us till date. He's really a mentor to me. That's when Geetika and I knew that we need to get the builders together. That's how this was born. And first we just thought it would be, we know Mayank, we know Shahzada, we know Simran, Sushrut. That's a vibe, and we'll all just hang out and we'll like share and it'll be great. And then in that jam, we thought, why not make it a festival? Why not increase it to helping people build a life of freedom and flexibility and not just stick to ops of a co-living? We made it real, it overperformed, there was a wait list, and now we're here. And that's how this festival happened. Organic system. But why nomadism? Why is this festival about digital nomads? Why am I so obsessed with this word? As I traveled, especially from Uber Sydney to then traveling Australia, I noticed that the corporate scene in Sydney, they all cared about what do you do? Even in Bangalore, first question, what do you do? The more responsibilities you have, the more social prestige you get in an unspoken way. When I went to my first backpacker hostel in Australia, and a bunch of people asked, what do you do? And I said, oh, I used to work at Uber Australia because I didn't have a new identity yet, so I was going with my past one. So funny looking back. I could just say I do nothing and that's okay. But I didn't have that confidence. Someone else in the crowd, someone was like, that's boring, you know? Someone else in the crowd said, I walk dogs for 2 hours in the morning and I have the rest of my day free. And everyone was like, woo, you made it. And I was like, what? That's insane. So that's when I realized that digital nomadism is totally different, where we actually value freedom and flexibility. So that's what this whole festival is going to be about. How do we build a life of freedom and flexibility? How do we get India on the digital nomad map? And also, how do we do it in a world that's constantly changing in a way that we can never predict? AI is changing the game big time right now. Put your hands up if you've first-hand played with AI agents, not just the chatbots, right? Those that have know that the impact of it is insane, and we're going to be talking about that and sharing knowledge over here. And that's why people now have a choice. They can either be in one city, right, work with one company, or they can be like nomads and question the norm. Why do we need to have one job? Why do we need to get married? Why do we need to settle down? Question all of the traditions and truly build an alternative form of life. So that's it from me, guys. I'm going to hand it over to Pavi. I just want to say that this is not a passive conference. You will get out as much as you put in, as much of a cliche as that phrase is. So talk to people, put yourself out there, and we're pretty sure that doors will open in ways that you could never ever predict. Cheers, guys. Thank you so much.